processes have been developed for building and adding new airports to the aviation system plan. I want to give this slide in here first so you can see this is the location of the east central region of the Florida Aviation System Plan. I don't know if you can see it very well, I probably can't, but it does depict all the public use airports in this region. And what I want to do first before I get into the actual presentation is talk about the different types of airport facilities that we have in the state. The first type of airports are those that are privately owned for private use facilities. These are typically landing strips, helicopter landing areas that are located on private property and only used for the exclusive use of the private landowner. These facilities are not inspected or licensed by the department, but they are required to register with the state and re-register every 2 years. These airports are not in the system plan because they're private use facilities, and they're not eligible for grant funding because they are privately owned. And as you can see from the graphic there, Lake County has 16 of those. Crater has 9, Orange County has 23, and Seminole County has 5. The next type of airport we have is a privately owned, open to the public facility. Again, these airports are located on private property, but they are open for public use. They are inspected and licensed by the Department for Safety. They are included in the aviation system plan because they are public use airports. However, they are not eligible for state funding because they are privately owned. And you notice Lake County has 1 Midport Air Service in Houston. Orange County has 2 with the Orlando Apopka and Bob White Field. The other category, the last category, are those airports that are publicly owned public use facilities. These airport facilities are all located on public property and they are open for public use. They are licensed and inspected by the Department for Safety, and these make up the majority of the airports included in the airport system plan. These are the only type of facilities that are eligible for grant funding because they are both publicly owned and public use. And I've listed all those publicly owned public use airports in the local area. Next thing I want to talk about is the grant program. The Department has an aviation growth grant program that helps provide a safe, cost-effective, and efficient statewide aviation system by helping airports build and maintain infrastructure and support facilities. Those airports that are eligible are all, again, like I said, publicly owned and that are open for public use. In addition, those facilities must be under full public operational and development control to be eligible. Grant funds can cover projects that are for any capital project on airport property or services that lead to any capital project, such as design and planning services. The projects must be consistent with the airport's role as it's defined in the Florida Aviation System Plan, and those projects must be included in an airport master plan, an airport layout plan. Some type of typical projects that we can find and are considered eligible are projects such as airport planning projects. Considered master plans, maybe environmental studies, noise studies. We have airport capital improvement projects, such as airside projects like runways, taxiways, aircraft parking aprons. We have landside projects, which include terminals and auto parking. Preservation projects, which include rehabs and overlays. Safety and security projects, such as tree clearing, obstruction removal, lighting, and fencing. We also have land acquisition that can be eligible. It's those for environmental mitigation, easements, or runway protection areas. And we also will fund airport economic development projects to encourage airport revenues, such as infrastructure for industrial parks or buildings that are leased. All grant funding requires a local match. For those commercial service airports, those airports that have scheduled commercial service, if federal funds are provided, the department will fund up to 1/2 of the non-federal share. For projects that do not have federal funding, we will provide up to 50% of the project cost. For general aviation airports, those without scheduled commercial service, and with federal funds, we will provide up to 80% of the non-federal share. Or for non-federal projects, we will fund up to 80% of the project cost. In economic development projects, we will fund up to 50% of the project cost. When determining which projects we would fund or consider funding, we would certainly need to consider the local sponsors' priority projects. They would give us those list of projects, and we would look to make sure that they are compatible with the system plan. Then there's other priorities that we need to consider, such as those that encourage the maximum allocation of federal funds, that ensures that minimum state standards for safety are maintained, those projects that meet state and federal standards for safety and security, those that preserve the existing infrastructure, and those that increase the capacity of existing airports. That was a very basic overview of the aviation grant program. And the next thing I want to talk about is the steps necessary for building a new airport. The department has come up with a document called 8 Steps to Building a New Airport. And the first step 1 is that you have to have a public sponsor. Every airport that's proposed to be part of the Florida's aviation system must be sponsored by a public agency, and the proposed facility must be open for public use. Step 2, feasibility study. The feasibility study is necessary to justify the need for the facility. The study will identify a proposed concept, will identify the financial considerations in building a new facility. Now, the ultimate answer to this feasibility study is the facility needed, and is it financially feasible? Step 3, then we get into the system plan. Entry into the system plan is ultimately the responsibility of the Central Aviation Office and the State Aviation Manager. The approval and ultimate inclusion in the system plan is based on the results of the feasibility study, the capability and willingness of the local sponsor to assume long-term financial and legal commitments, recommendations from the appropriate system planning regional steering committee, which is made up of all the airports that I showed you at the beginning of the presentation, all those airports in the East Central region of the system plan, and the recommendation from the appropriate district office. Step 4 is the site selection study. Site selection study is necessary for the proper location of a facility. Some considerations for the proper location include development costs, environmental considerations, and long-term growth to meet future demand. In addition to the site selection study, there may be included environmental studies that will need to be done. The facility planning. Once the site has been selected, then the airport must do the airport master plan. And those projects identified in the master plan must then be prioritized and then included in the department's 5-year work program. Step 6 is local government planning. First off, the master plan needs to be incorporated into the local comprehensive plan, and the projects that are listed in the master plan need to be included in the MPO, TPO's long-range transportation plan and transportation improvement programs. Step 7 is environmental impact analysis. Before construction can even begin for a new airport, in-depth environmental studies will need to be performed. Typically, the FAA conducts these environmental studies, and then they issue a record of decision. Final step 8 is airport construction can now begin. But you've got to consider that construction could be delayed because of limited funding, constraints from the sponsors, and the availability and priority of state and federal funds. And typically, this 8-step process will take a minimum of 5 years. But that's for a small GA airport. For any airports that are larger business-type aircraft or airports, then this process could definitely take much longer before the ground can even be broken. That's the end of my presentation. You can go to the website that I've got on the screen here for additional information on what I've presented and any other information that you would like to see regarding Florida airports. Thank you.
And now we will hear from representatives from the city of Apopka to talk about the ecotourism vision plan. John Wallace and Mary Wilcox with Miller Lake.
Thank you, Laura. Good morning to everyone. It's nice to be here today. Nice to be a part of this very exciting time here in the community that will usher in some new opportunities in the future. Our role today is really to talk about some ideas towards the North Shore of the lake and some ecotourism opportunities. And I want to say just a couple words before we get into our presentation, which will be done by Mary Wilcox, our chief planner. Ecotourism today is really a worldwide phenomenon. For about the past 20 years, we've been specializing in tourism-related projects, whether they be entertainment projects or tourist attractions or public parks throughout Florida internationally. Most recently, I've been involved in a 50,000-acre ecotourism project in Brazil and a 42-square-mile ecotourism project in China that was a very similar situation with stressed wetlands and a redevelopment plan. And what we're finding in these areas are that people have the same agenda. They want to see economic development. They want to see tourism created. They want to see people who are coming to a resource-based opportunity spend money, help the local economy. So our focus on this project has been really to look at the opportunities that might be in this region, primarily the North Shore of the lake, from an environmental standpoint, from an economic standpoint, and kind of pull some of those out for you to consider today as we think about the future of this area. We don't have a definitive plan, but we think we've got elements that are available for you to consider and think about and help maybe create some kind of a plan in the future. So with that, I'd like Mary to get started on our presentation. Mary Wilcox.
Good morning, everyone. So I'll start off, some time ago the city of Apopka came to us and asked if we would help them put together an ecotourism plan for the North Shore area. And right away I thought to myself, well, a lot of that area is not in the city of Apopka, and a lot of that area is not owned by the city of Apopka. So I asked them very, very politely, what is the intent of this plan? And they gave me a very simple and very prudent answer, which was, there's been a great deal of talk out here about all the different things that might go on, about ecotourism, agri-industry, agritourism. We'd really like you to help us conceptualize what that may look like. And I tell Hans I was stealing from him if he was still here. I don't see him now. But I believe palette of potential is really what this plan is about. It's intended to show both the constraints and the opportunities in the area and kind of think somewhat outside the box. So if part of this is humdrum and then part of it is awe-inspiring, well, then I believe we've done our jobs here. What we've created here is a kind of a mid-scale bubble plan for the North Shore, and there are a few key components that I'll highlight as we go through here. The first, of course, being the North Shore recreation or restoration area. And as you can see there, we were fortunate enough to have the district's draft land management plan for the North Shore come out in December, which gave us an opportunity to look through that We were thrilled to see things like the Wildlife Drive. It's a great opportunity. If you've never been to Black Point out in Merritt Island, it's a wonderful drive to take. And an opportunity like that obviously would be a great thing to see out here. The other is being the multi-use trail or the Apopka Loop Trail, which is in the process, as we've heard from other folks today. And so we included those in the exhibit. Again, we deferred a lot to the Water Management District in their already existing plans for what they would do with their property here. One of the last things that we keyed in on was the statement regarding the surplus property up on Jones Road. We thought that was a phenomenal opportunity to create a node of eco-tourism in the area that does not exist today, and I'll talk a little bit more about that here in just a second. One of the other things we felt they could build upon, or the area could build upon, was the agritourism industry. And you've got, terms like ecotourism and agritourism, they get thrown around a lot, and I don't think everybody knows, and I'll throw myself out there. You kind of got a concept in your head of what that is, but you don't have the specifics per se. So when you sit down and you Google agritourism, you find out that what the Long Scots are doing on their property today fits the bill nearly perfectly. You're talking about an active agricultural operation. You're talking about things like corn maze, farmers market, hay rides and tours, all things that are going out there today. So you actually got this piece of the puzzle already there in place, and it's a phenomenal opportunity to build off, just like the North Shore restoration area is a phenomenal opportunity. The second opportunity we identified was the fact that both within the county and the city of Apopka, you've got a lot of areas that are already designated industrial. The industries out there range pretty dramatically from everything from a septic tank company to, I would throw IFAS into that mix, and those are far into the spectrum there. What we really thought was we really need to build more off of the IFAS end of things and look at opportunities for clean energy. Solar fields are being built in Lake County today. There's a great opportunity there, both for solar field facilities as well as the manufacturing facilities associated with those. There's also opportunities there for research and development, much like what you see at IFAS, for several other types of green industry to locate within proximity to Lake Apopka and perhaps play off of the opportunities that Lake Apopka provides. Somebody spoke earlier about opportunities to do research on lake water cleanup, and I know several privately held companies out there that are seeking solutions to that because they feel like it could be phenomenally profitable if they can come up with that one solution, perhaps. And let me touch on this real quickly too. Planes, trains, and automobiles, to be quite frank. We've got right in the middle of this industrial area here, this intermodal center. I know you've probably never heard it referred to as that, but it really is. It's rare that you can stand on a U.S. highway and throw a baseball from that U.S. highway across train tracks into an airport. And it really is a facility that's probably underutilized, that exists out there today, and there's opportunity there perhaps to do something more with that, and to capitalize on the fact that you do have those three major types of transportation right there in the middle of your industrial district. If I can get that, and there we go. Now, the last, the fourth part of this puzzle up here was the opportunity to create some sort of an eco-village where the surplus property and some adjoining property are today. And we really saw this as that, I've heard so many great things about people coming from far and wide to the North Shore for birding. I'm a cyclist myself, and I've ridden most of the trails in this area, and I'll tell you they're wonderful. I can't wait for the loop trail to go through. I'm riding with my children now, and I'm always looking for opportunities to get them off the road and onto a multi-use trail, and to be able to take them through somewhere where they might actually see some really interesting wildlife is a great opportunity. And so, how do you use that? How do you use that as an economic development engine, and how do you both benefit it as well as play off of it? And we thought an eco-village would be an opportunity there. I'm going to move on to that slide. So now, if you will, this would be what is approximately 1,000 acres, including both the 600 some odd acres of surplus property plus some adjoining privately held property that we thought could form kind of a three-phase eco-village up on Jones Road, and sort of the hub or the node for these kind of acts, for birding, for trail riding, for running, hiking, all the activities that you can do in the North Shore restoration area. The first phase, and again we're talking conceptually here, the first phase that we thought would be, we heard some talk about the need for a buffer area between any development, more intense development that might occur up towards Jones Road. And so that we thought would be the first phase of the project, including this, what may be an environmental center of some sort. This could be, when we say environmental center, sometimes we think of simply a place with trails and pavilions, but it can also be a building with classrooms, with meeting space, with a center for a nonprofit organization or something of that sort. And we also saw a need to buffer to the east side as well, and saw an opportunity to kind of create this all this restoration activity is going on out there. It's on such a large scale that it's sort of hard to see. You could have created a really interesting interpretive trail that walks you through the different types of restoration that are occurring out here in much smaller bite-sized pieces so that you can understand. And so we saw that as an opportunity to have a first phase. That second phase would include really the heart of the eco-village, which would be things like a lodge, offices related to, and again, when I say offices and I say retail, all as secondary uses relative to the eco-village concept here. So you see retail and office, the opportunity perhaps for something like a wildlife and bird rescue facility, trailhead coming out of this kind of main node up here, and some more habitat restoration areas and such. We really see this as, like I said, the heart of all this, an opportunity for someone to come out who's traveled from far away, stay at this lodge that has this theme to it, not too dissimilar from the Fort Wilderness Lodge you might see at Disney, and be able to have quick access to all the opportunities that are there at the North Shore. The third phase, assuming that the first phases are successful, would be to kind of expand westward to take to bring in this portion of property that's actually privately owned at the moment. And we saw opportunities there for an equestrian facility. It's in very high demand. You'd be amazed at how high demand equestrian facilities are, and this will be, in our concept, a full-use facility with things like grazing meadows and paddocks, even a rodeo, things of that sort. We also saw an opportunity for rental cabins, short-term rentals of some sort. You always have to have that flexibility. You might have noticed in the previous plan we had a campground, which would be obviously RVs and tent camping and things of that sort. And you have a lodge, which is more of your hotel type use. But if there's if you're looking to bring a family, if you're looking to sleep 12 people, the lodge maybe isn't the best bet. And trust me, I've tried the car camp with my kids, and sometimes you really just want to be under a roof. So we saw an opportunity here to have some sort of cabin rental area that would be like a third lodging opportunity. And finally, we saw an opportunity for a regional park out here, perhaps, and that may be that may be an area that right now is just kind of in holding for future development of some sort. That again is secondary to this whole ecotourism theme. But we really thought it would be a great opportunity to have a park out there with a full range of facilities, including ball fields, courts, disc golf, and BMX tracks, and all that sort of thing. Not too dissimilar from what you see in Barnett Park in Orange County. That's I'm getting the eye up here, so. She promised me she'd do that, and I promised her I would not look at her, but I did. Very influential. Again, I can't stress enough, this is a planning exercise, and I give a great deal of credit to the city of Apopka to have the foresight to say, just show us what it might look like. Just conceptualize it with us. This isn't going to be, adopted into the comprehensive plan or the land development code tomorrow. It's just an idea of what might actually occur out here. And we've got both of these exhibits, the one you see up here now and the previous North Shore one, printed out. We'll have them in the lobby on some easels out there if I can find some. And you're welcome to kind of peruse the plans, but again, stressing again, I think it's more of a first step in conceptualizing what an ecotourism plan for this area might look like. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's exciting to see some vision and ideas for the future. Now we're going to slightly shift gears, and we're going to hear from the West Orange Airport Authority, and Guy Haggard and Alice Harrell will be making that presentation. So come on down.
Thank you, Chairman Campion, for putting this whole thing together, and thank you for getting all the politicians that have the money for these plans together. That's probably the most important one. I'm going to give an overview of the current airports that are within the authority's territory, talk about the economic impact, and then talk about how the airports are partners and participants in ecotourism. There's 3 existing airports. There's the Orlando Apopka Airport. I'll go over its particulars in a minute. The Bob White Airport and the Orlando Orange Airport. So there's 3 airports already existing. These are the locations, the blue lines of the runways. The one on the right by 441 is the Orlando Apopka that everybody sees when you drive by. The one at the top is Bob White at the grass strip, 3,000 feet long, just north of Jones Road. The one to the left, right on the Lake County line, is the Orlando North Airport, that's 2,600 foot feet. Little description on the Orlando Apopka Airport. It's continuously operated since 1937. It's got about 4,000 foot paved runway. There's 180 building lots, 90 of which are already built and occupied. There's an FBO fueling facility, which is owned by the city of Apopka. They run the aviation fuel facility. It has 3 aviation maintenance facilities to repair aircraft. Several manufacturing facilities. This is a kind of mixed use of hangars. The hangars are designed to house businesses that do manufacturing, warehousing, light industrial. And one of the newest is the manufacturer that just moved there that manufactures convention displays and furniture. Significant jobs have been added to the area, several $1 million in annual impact, just from that one business. Some of the businesses that are located at the airport, Abbott Farms, American Motorsports, White Aviation. And you see the list there. I'll just point some out. Red Ash Security Systems, this is a manufacturer and designer of airport security systems all over the country. It's located right in the platform. Ada Aviation is the FBO there. JH Audio is the manufacturer that's famous enough for manufacturing and designing earpieces for rock and roll musicians. Lone Options, Jackson Technologies and Engineering consulting business. Continuing on, Orlando Apopka Airport. There's a museum that's just located at the airport that's in temporary quarters. Honors pilots of the past and the nostalgia years of the 20s, 30s, 40s. You might have seen Captain Brown and Captain Lupo around. They flew back in that time. And it's planned on the ground is a $30 million project. University of Florida uses this airport to access its IFAS facilities that are nearby. They have monthly FAA safety seminars at the airport. There's 2 new GPS instrument approaches and 2 star scanner arrival procedures for the airport. Those are all new safety enhancements. This is a picture of the approach on the runway 33 at the airport. You can see the buildings that have been constructed on the left and the empty available pads on the north and south side. 441. These are some of the modern buildings. As you can see, and then we have the Orlando North Airport. This is the one right on the Lake County line. This has been continuously operated since 1961. It currently has a 2,600 paved runway. It has 48 hangars. It has fuel and maintenance facilities, and these are some of the businesses located at this airport. We've got motorcycle accessory business. Van Atta is an FBO, also has a FBO here. But a lot of good businesses located at this airport also. This is an aerial showing the 2,600-foot runway looking to the west into Lake County. These are the existing 48 hangars just to the north of the runway. Bob White Airport is continuously operated since 1946. It's a grass strip, 3,000 foot, caters to recreational and sport pilots. There's a nostalgia of flying on grass strips with tail draggers. There's 73 hangars, pretty vibrant grass runway. It has an aircraft maintenance facility on site, and there's two businesses located on this small grass strip. There's a picture of Bob White Airport with one of the tail draggers taxiing in. This is an aerial. You can see the hangars along the top, and just make out the airstrip. It's probably during the winter when the grass is really green. All three of these airports are in what's known as the enterprise zone. There's 59 enterprise zones in the state of Florida. This is an area the state has designated as economically distressed. And the reason this area is distressed is because when our farms got shut down, all the jobs that were related to it went away. So what we're doing here, we're trying to figure out how to get ecotourism and other businesses into this area to revitalize it. Enterprise zone is an excellent place for businesses to locate because they get pretty significant tax breaks for every person they hire. There's only 59 of these in the state, and one of them is the Apopka enterprise zone. Here's a photo of it. It's all the yellow area. You can see all three airports are in the area. The ecotourism concept that the city of Apopka presented is in the area, so that means those jobs get the tax credit. There's, you can see the new Kaiba Parkway, which is we'll talk about multimodal, and 441 goes along here. And then the black line is the rail, which is proposed also for a commuter line to connect to various and Leesburg down to Orlando and to the Nashville airport. So, what a great location. You've got an enterprise zone with tax breaks, you've got airports, you've got expressways, roads, ecotourism, to make it all one destination. The enterprise zone, rail, parkway, airports, ecotourism, all in one location. All right. The FDOT just did an economic impact study on general aviation airports in the state of Florida, and it's just released. The study was done in 2010 that general aviation airports are centers of employment and economic impact. All our businesses rely on aviation to get around, to get customers in, to get people out. And the impact of an airport extends way beyond the boundaries of the airport. And so they did this study to measure that impact. They listed where the revenue comes in, is created by general aviation airport, construction, visitors, on-airport businesses, off-airport, education, such as the museum. The Florida Aviation System Plan report that is projected in 2025 has some statements about how key roles airports and aviation are in Florida. It's a critical role for Florida's economic and community development. And they're obviously engines of business growth and job creation. This is what the report says just about the three Apopka area airports. So this is Bob White, Orlando North, Orlando Apopka. This is the current economic impact without any improvements or enhancements. 250 jobs, payroll over $8 million a year. These are annual numbers. An economic output of $19 million a year annually. is, you can't see some of it, but this is from the report. I wanted to show what some of the airports that are similar size in Apopka are doing. The Orlando-Apopka Airport alone was 232 jobs, over 18 million. DeLand, we had 2,500 jobs, 217 million. Jacksonville, General Aviation Airport, $1 billion, 6,500 jobs. Lake City Airport, north of Gainesville, almost 1,500 jobs and $165 million a year income. Even Merritt Island, everybody's been over there, is 400 jobs and over 30 million. All better than we're doing, so we can do better. We feel the airports are partners in economic growth. We like the Apopka's vision with the ecotourism plan, where they have a place to create a destination that attracts visitors. That's what an airport's for. Attract the visitors and use the transportation. We could work together to develop the hotels, infrastructure, and restaurants, and other business that ecotourism and the airport support. Just point out one known fact, the way airports and the environment mesh. The birds that are actually trapped in the North Shore are trapped with airplanes that are based in our airports. $75,000 in economic impact just from birds. And quick, I'm running short on my time. I wanted to compare the Merritt Island National Wildlife Refuge with the airports around Titusville. There's actually 5 airports that are in or surround this refuge. And talk to the manager over there. They do a great job of cooperating together, figuring out ways to protect the environment and promote economic development using both ecotourism and the airport. Let's see Merritt Island National Refuge. You can see the Space Coast Airport is close by, Arthur Dunn, Merritt Island. Air Force Airport is actually within it, so the Space Shuttle landing site is right within it. And everybody works together and does a good job of it. The destination airport, one of the largest, if I understand, maybe the largest bird festival in the country is right here, and this airport supports it and provides for us. Titusville Airport, 1,420 jobs and over 175 million of economic input. I want to talk a little bit quickly about tomorrow. We want to make it a destination airport for ecotourism and businesses just like Titusville and Merritt Island Refuge are doing. The museum is a big part of that. It's a $30 million project, and Alice will talk about it in a minute. We've got a lot of available space to bring new businesses in, and single business will take here for 250 jobs. Quickly, some examples of other small airports. This is Titusville. This is a $28 million impact. They have more than 200 jobs just from one business associated at that airport. 125 jobs to Marshall Airport. These are all news articles just in the last year. Convair spent $8 million developing the seaplane base, and it was over 26 new businesses. Infinity just got 55 new jobs with a business that just moved in there. And with that, I'm going to have one of the directors of the museum say about 60 seconds.
Good morning, neighbors. My name is Alice Harold, and I'm a proud citizen of Howell in the Hills. I'm here as a volunteer representing the USAI Museum Foundation, located at the Orlando-Apopka Airport. I'm on the board of directors, working to make a wonderful dream of a world-class museum come true. Not only for the positive economic benefits that we'll have for our whole area, but to make this dream a reality for my dear friend Captain Leroy Brown, who is age 92, and his wife Wanda, who had volunteered so much time over the last 10 years to get this museum off the ground. We're working on a very big dream. A dream with startup costs of $30 million to build our museum complex, meaning many construction jobs. We'll be needing about 20 acres of land because this will be a small-scale Disney type of attraction, bringing people to our area from all over the world. This means business for local hotels, motels, restaurants, etc., you know. When finished, we anticipate hiring a staff of 15 to 20 full-time personnel, and we would certainly welcome volunteers too. We will have all types of memorabilia. We will have simulators so adults and especially school children can experience the thrill and excitement of flying. Our young people will be exposed to all kinds of career opportunities available to them. Our museum hours are Saturdays from 10 to 4, Sundays 12 to 4. Come see us. We're right there on 441. You probably have all seen our aircraft there at the side of the road, our convair. And lastly, you bird people will have to help me. I can't remember the name of the bird that was saved by the aircraft. What was it? It was near extinction. Does anybody here know that bird? Was it some kind of stork?
Goose.
Okay. Whooping crane. Thank you. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alice and Di, for your presentation. Our next panel will focus on environmental considerations in the area, so if all those panelists could join us from the Flora Audubon Society here in front of the Scenic Byway. Our first speaker will be Charles Lee, who's with the Florida Audubon Society.
Let me just say it really excites me to be at this event, to see people like Senator Hayes, to see an array of county commissioners, to see John Micah, to see everyone here in the community interest of ecotourism and the restoration of Lake Apopka. To me, as an Audubon person, is truly elating. I want to focus on this map and just point out to you something that's significant, and that is the location of the immediate areas that will be turned into what I'm going to call, for simplistic purposes, the prime bird marshes right here. And note the location of that to the somewhat controversial existing airport proposal that had been proposed to expand onto water management district land here. And bring this into a focal point of discussion in this talk. We have over $180 million in taxpayers' dollars spent so far on this restoration effort, and we have tremendous product from that restoration. And the product is 360 species that are observed, one of the densest and most diverse bird areas in the nation. The highest one-day inland count of birds anywhere in North America has occurred at this site. One of the things that we are concerned about is that, done wrong, done in the wrong places, airports have the potential to kill this bird. And this is simply the front page of the Federal Aviation Administrator's circular, which is about 30 pages of their regulations. If an entity like the Water Management District were to lend or give or trade part of its land to become an airport, the result would be that those federal aviation regulations would apply equally to the Water Management District and the airport itself. And if an airport becomes a public use airport on the national system, then the regulations that could require birds to be extirpated from the area become potentially draconian. And this is just one aspect of those, and that's the circles that the FAA draws on a map. They call them wildlife hazard zones, and they attempt to then work their regulations to try to exclude wildlife from that area. And I just again want to note, here we have, in very close proximity to that proposed runway, We have the prime areas that are being restored first for the birds in this area. And this is real time, real world, not speculation. This is what happened in State College, Pennsylvania, to their revered duck pond, because you had the university, which was the owner of the airport land and the owner of the duck pond. The FAA reeled them both in with its regulations and said, you've got to get rid of the birds. They're actually out there poisoning bird eggs as we speak. That's the danger. But I want to talk about the opportunity, because the opportunity, I think, is more important and alluring than the danger. We watch the progression of transportation systems, the Wekiva Parkway, which is already built to 441, will soon be built to Interstate 4, linking this area together. The Orange Blossom rail extension of Sunrail coming right through this area, and here we have the potential for the ecotourism area, very much like was shown by Miller Lake a little bit earlier. And I point this green area on the map. It is a little larger than what Miller Lake showed. I wanted to include all of the Long and Scott land because I believe it is extremely important that landowners and the potential opportunity for those landowners be brought fully into the ecotourism picture. There is a need to consider the interest of landowners, and there is a need to allow the ecotourism concept to deal with the potential entitlements that those landowners would like to attain for their properties. The reality of these wildlife attractions in terms of people are huge. You saw some of the numbers. The question is, how are we going to serve them? And you saw some maps from Miller Lake. I'm going to show you something vertical that kind of indicates what we think had ought to be built out there, encompassing both the surplus land the Water Management District has listed, the Long and Scott lands, and the lands that are encompassed by the existing airport site. These are the kind of facilities that we believe can be real and present economic development activity that boosts, is compatible with, reinforces, plays off of, and maximizes the potential of what happens with regard to commerce and economic development in this area. I get to my final slide, and these are the points that I want to make. How do we bring this into reality? We've had a lot of concepts up here today, but let's talk about the brass tacks. Let's talk about the fact that if we're going to do this, we need a multi-jurisdictional planning process. We need to arch over the jurisdictional boundaries of Lake County, Orange County, and the city of Apopka. We need to bring all of those government units together in a multi-jurisdictional planning process. It probably ought to look something like a sector plan. It probably ought to be comprehensive as to both public and private properties. The existing airport property, the property that is owned by Long and Scott, and the 500 plus acres that are the Water Management District surplus tract. It ought to be focused on maximizing that right kind of economic development that is related to and supportive of the ecotourism. And what we are asking our government friends here today to do is to step into the forefront of leadership on this issue. Let's bring the combined interests of Orange, Lake, and the city of Apopka together. Let's get the planning done. Let's get entitlements done. The final word I'll say is airports. We know that there's an interest in airports in this area. I think that what Mr. Haggard said this morning, which I took to focus primarily on the Orlando Apopka Airport on US 441, is very encouraging. All of the ecological and potential FAA bird strike issues need to be examined carefully as they relate to any airport in this area. But the Orlando Apopka Airport, with its recently established new approaches and departure paths, is a much more tractable place to examine the feasibility for a new regional airport than the previously discussed site. And we certainly hope that the community interest will drive consideration to a feasibility study on that facility rather than one that would put the flight path right out over this restoration area and bring the FAA in as a potential adversary in full force. Thank you very much.
And next we have Marge Holt with the Sierra.
Yes, hello, I'm Marge Holt. I'm the Conservation Chair and the Chair for the Sierra Club, the Central Florida Group. Our membership covers Orange, Lake, Seminole, and Osceola counties. And we do have an advocacy area, like me, with people that are more policy-oriented. But there's a large number who participate in our outings program that is just great. Camping, hiking, trails. So all the wonderful plans that can be implemented out in this area is just really what our organization would utilize and bring economic benefit to the area. I'm going to focus today on the potentially proposed runway and its incompatible negative impacts that could happen to the North Shore. One is the economic investment, and one is to the land management plan that is quite detailed. It includes all the wetlands and wildlife, burn management plans, and seasonal flooding. Just a breakdown of the economic investment into the acquisition funding. P2000, Preservation 2000 was the former land acquisition program that the state of Florida had. Save Our Rivers, and you'll see there's other public funding that has gone into that land acquisition. This is from the Water Management District's website, and the accomplishments up to 2012. You see the three priorities for infrastructure improvement, remediation to clean up the area, and then the flooding of the wetlands. That's almost $5 million. And that is what potentially and does bring in a multitude of avian species. At the bottom, there's the scrub restoration grant, which is very nice. I understand there's some great upland plants out there, the scrub warning glory. It's federally endangered, so it's good to see that in the area. Wildlife viewing has a very positive economic value to the area. The 1998 Christmas bird count, 174 species, but today there's about 348 known species that have utilized the area. Other wildlife include alligators, turtles, otters, and bobcats. So that might be interesting to have to move or watch across the one-ring. And mine stops there, so I'll leave it there. I tried to send my PowerPoint presentation in, so I have just a little bit more. The land management plan could be affected by the FAA wildlife hazard management area should a runway be sited in this area. Currently, there's 81% or 15,862 actively managed healthy marsh systems within the restoration area. And there's seasonal flooding that provides for floodwater storage for lake level fluctuation. So it's very important that those marshes have their seasonal flooding. It helps to purify the lake and attract the wildlife. And in closing, I'd just like to stress that the Sierra Club is quite concerned about the incompatibility issues of a runway through the potential surplus land of 500 acres. The district has designated that to be potentially sold for another purpose. We certainly advocate for Orange County to accept that as a donation. We believe it's a very compatible land use for the area. Could be used for passive and potentially some parks and recreation activity. So we would like to see that move forward. And that's it. Thank you.
And next, we will have Greg Gensheimer, who's with the Green Mountain Scenic Byway.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Greg Gensheimer. I'm the chairman of the Green Mountain Scenic Byway, and we are also a 501c3. We're really a facilitating organization. We're a state-designated scenic highway. With that state designation, we're obligated for protecting, enhancing, and preserving all of the resources along the corridor for our byway. And, with that, we've kind of expanded what we consider the corridor to include the whole North Shore Restoration Area, all the way to the other end of Magnolia Park. And when we look at what we like to do, what we want to do, we've been tying ourselves to those that have been really prosperous, like the city of Winter Garden, and we're about to extend our byway into Mount Dora so that we can take advantage of the successes that they've had there and maybe build some more of those prosperous communities along the way. So with that, an awful lot of people think that scenic byways are more associated with growing wildflowers and those kinds of things. But I've got 9 years of doing environmental risk assessments and site assessments for my background. And so when I looked at the implications of birds versus airports, I also looked at airports versus birds. And so I wanted to give everybody an idea of some of the risk assessments that any potential airport on the North Shore would have to go through. And so as I was doing my research on the birds, one of the things I found out that 92% of the bird strikes occur below 3,000 feet. My nephew was an Airbus 320 pilot, and he told me last week he hit something at 10,000 feet and felt through the controls of his airplane. So, bird strikes happen pretty much everywhere. Waterfowl gulls and raptors make up about 77% of the species that are involved. 90% of the species involved in bird strikes are federally protected, and regardless of whether it's a great egret or an eagle or some other named bird before the strike, everything after the strike, somebody has come up with the word snarge. The other issue with if the airport would get approved in that area, they are required to have wildlife control personnel. That one of the mandates is that they are legally enabled to continually harass the birds. Habitat modification, potentially exclusion, which would be very difficult over 20-some thousand acres. And one of the criteria is to actually eliminate standing water or any kind of fresh water that would bring in birds. And then the last, as Charles Lee mentioned, is actual removal of the living birds that are out there. One of the greatest things about the birds that are out there for us as bird watchers and ecotourists happen to be pretty much the worst kinds of situations for airports. And we look at birds as hazards. We look at the size and the numbers and the behavior. A 12-pound goose, and my nephew can tell you that it wasn't a 12-pound goose, but it was something big at 10,000 feet. 12-pound goose hit at 150 knots, it's like a 1,000-pound weight. Starlings are little tiny birds, but they're known as feathered bullets. They do a tremendous amount of damage because they're very dense little birds. And when I went through the list of the birds identified at the North Shore, 100 different species are 1 pound or over. And those are the size of the birds that begin to cause damage. When I looked at the number of the birds, I also have a list that shows the highest daily bird counts of all the different species that I identified there. 46 species had individual day counts of 1,000 or greater. Robins were seen at approximately 250,000 on a single day. 65 species had single day counts in the hundreds. And something that's probably more important is not necessarily just the size of the numbers, but also the behavior. One of the things is that we know that there's lots and lots of crows around, but for some reason crows seem to be very smart and very willing to avoid those big silver things that are flying out. There's an awful lot of other birds that can't get out of the way. Some of the interesting things as far as risks are the flocking birds like geese and ducks, which are in the thousands and thousands out there. Other issues that are not necessarily related to a specific area is the flying to and from the roosting areas. Birds might use the North Shore Restoration Area for the day or for nighttime roosting, and they might fly elsewhere for feeding. The other thing is in the wintertime we've got the great migrations, and then as I mentioned with the crows, they're an awful lot better able to avoid the planes. There's an awful lot of other birds that just don't see those airplanes for some reason or another and allow themselves to get hit. The impact is not just on the birds, but I think the birds have a significant impact also on the airplanes. Bird strike reporting is not mandatory. The U.S. Aviation industry has lost $385 million per year, plus 461 hours of downtime. There's an estimated 65 bird strikes per day, so it's a common situation. Airports lose sometimes. Most of the time, the biggest control measures are done where there are federal or military bases where they can afford to do the control. Sometimes you can limit the use of the airports to avoid the behaviors of the birds. And sometimes what they found out is the control costs for individual airports outweigh the profits that they can generate from the landings and takeoffs. Bird strike has a reputation. One of the things that I found out too is that if an area is known to have too many birds, the insurance companies might not allow their planes to fly in there. And then also pilots won't want to fly in there, again, because they certainly are in control of some really expensive equipment that don't want to move. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much. Now our next panel discussion is actually going to be input from the various cities within Lake County, and Commissioner Campion will be moderating that session. But if the panelists could come on up to the stage, I understand Mayor Robert Thielhan from the city of Mount Dora, Mayor Judy Tice from the town of Astotula, Mayor Troy Bennett from the town of Montbert, and Commissioner Joe Kilsheimer from the city of Apopka. So please come on up here on stage and join us.
Well, thank you for agreeing to participate today. And we just wanted to find out from our municipal leaders if there are any specific plans that you have worked on with regard to ecotourism, opportunities within your jurisdiction, anything that you want to share that you're working on or that maybe vision sessions that you as a board have had. We're going to open it up for just your input. Mayor Thielman?
Well, things that we've done in Mount Dora, and we've gone also with the assistance of the city of Astotula. We signed a resolution of support for extending the Green Mountain Trail up through Astotula and on into Mount Dora. We still have to go before the Orange County Board of County Commissioners. We were thankful and appreciate the support that Commissioner Campion did for getting Lake County's Board of County Commissioners to support that effort. And we hope in the next couple of weeks to get Orange County. As part of that, I've even had some discussions with some members of the Water Management District that have been involved with the Lake Apopka restoration area, so that we've looked at ways of, for instance, if you look at the intersection of 48 and 448A, and if you continue south from that intersection, you actually come out to the North Shore restoration area. And from there are trails that the Water Management District has opened up on all the various dikes that are there so that you can drive around and see all the bird areas that are there. Last Thursday afternoon, I spent a good part of several hours driving around with representatives from there and seeing the area that we can open up for ecotourism. The city of Mount Dora, being one of the closest cities to that area, we hope, with the cooperation of our number of our bed and breakfasts, and particularly the Lakeside Inn, who's going to host the Audubon Society there at a meeting that I talked about earlier, that we can see what hopefully grow the ecotourism that's available to us in that area. Thank you.
Judy, do you want to chime in?
Hi. I'm new to the job. I've been on the job less than 1 month, and I'm doing the fact-finding. I have been in government before, but I've not been for the last 2 years. I did have the opportunity to meet with Adam Sumner yesterday, Mr. Chandler, to start the process of ecotourism. And Apopka, in a little history, it's small. We have no hotel rooms, but we do have rental properties. When I first moved there, we did have some fish camps down at the end of Florida Avenue, but those have been sold, so we don't even have fish camps anymore. But we have a lot of opportunity for growth in the ecotourism area because we're like the place to be for fishing. My husband limits out every day if he goes either to Apopka or Little Lake Harris. And people try to find him because our boat is kind of orangish, but he tries to put it in the weeds so they can't see it. So Apopka has some good opportunities. And a lot of people don't realize on the southeast of town, the bird sanctuary there, in the dikes, in the pumping stations, and you can actually see, like, in the spring, baby gators. You don't want to mess with them because the mothers are big, but they're also there. So Apopka really is in like a fact-finding. I know when I was on the council previously, our LDRs, we did include a lot of ecotourism, trying to make our downtown area, which we don't have a downtown area, to make it more user-friendly. And if the trails go through as planned, it's going to be just a boon for our little town.
Well, we appreciate that you teamed up with Mount Dora, too, to move forward the scenic byway resolution. So thank you for that. Joe?
Well, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to be here today. And notwithstanding Commissioner Brummer's promotion of bird blues on March the 9th, which I'm also helping out with, I want to let everybody know that your first opportunity to take a guided tour of the Lake Apopka North Shore area is tomorrow morning. The city of Apopka is holding something called the Old Florida Outdoor Festival at our Northwest Recreation area. Truly, the full palette of possibilities that was discussed earlier will be on display this weekend in Apopka. It's being held at our world-class recreation facility called the Northwest Recreation Area. The guided birding tours begin at 8 a.m. And there's a whole host of activities from fishing demonstrations, shrimping demonstrations. There's an area where people are going to do shooting demonstrations. It's really going to be fantastic. Our inaugural Old Florida Outdoor Festival was last year. It was extremely successful in very cold weather. This year, this weekend, we think we're going to have Chamber of Commerce weather, and so we're looking forward to really showing off Apopka and showing off what the possibilities are. The cost for the tours is included in price of admission to the festival, so it's $10 a day or $40 for all 3 days, which includes 2 outstanding country music festivals by 2 top bands, one called Lone Star, which is tonight, and Gary Allen, who is tomorrow. So we're looking forward to showing off Apopka and showing off what the possibilities are.
And you're going to be making trips out to the
Right, so we'll be from the ticket booth area at the Old Florida Outdoor Festival, there'll be guided tours out onto the North Shore recreational
Great.
forest restoration area.
Now, we saw today, for the first time, the vision of an eco-lodge, eco sort of resort concept. Do you want to elaborate on that? Could you maybe, the first thing I noticed is the proximity of that to the existing runway. And I wonder to what extent there's been discussion about how those two uses could coexist.
Well, I saw the land today for the first time myself, so I think the plan has a lot of merit, and I know if you talk to the people who are back in the airport, they say that they feel like they can be compatible, and of course, the people who are advocates of birding say that it's not compatible. So at some point, there's going to be some kind of discussion to settle all that out. And personally, my philosophy is let the science speak for itself. So what the science tells us, that would be my recommendation to follow. I'll just let that.
We don't have to put too much on the spot there. Well, we've also heard a suggestion that the two jurisdictions, actually three, so that you Lake and Orange and Apopka join together on some across jurisdiction planning efforts. And so I'd like to hear the thoughts of this group on that as an approach. What do you think that would be a good step to take at this point to actually begin the process of looking at whether we could do cross-jurisdictional planning in this regard?
Well, I have a mic, so I'll start first. Well, first of all, I think one of the things to say from the outset about ecotourism is that I think ecotourism is a uniquely Florida opportunity. Florida, more than many other states, has that environment that attracts people. And to the extent that we can create ecotourism that is dependent on the preservation of our natural environment, we're going to create jobs and economic opportunities that we'll never outsource because it depends on our environment. And so I think, to the extent that we can create, regional conversations, because certainly the birds don't know boundaries like we know boundaries. To the extent that we can create regional conversations that advance, all of our mutual interests forward and deal with our mutual problems, I think that's a good idea.
Well, I agree that we do need to, because of limited funding availabilities and the need that we generate jobs across through the state. We came together on a regional basis to get the Wakaiva Parkway through. We're beginning to work on a regional basis of getting the trails system, especially to close the gaps and go from coast to coast. And with that system, that on wherever we are, this sort of jewel that we had to the south, and we call Lake Apopka, we need to increase its ecotourism capabilities there. Ultimately, when we recognize that if we were to do this extensively and continue what some of these plans are to further restore that lake, we could have the largest bird sanctuary in North America. And just consider what that would bring to us in this particular area where we need jobs and we need businesses to come here. Thank you.
Judy, Maria?
Firm believer in putting heads together and working together. You get a lot of interesting insights and able to think outside the box. I agree with the two gentlemen to my right. And also the job. Acetal, like I said, is very little. We have very little industry. Mostly it's a bedroom community or retirement community. A lot of our residents they just come in for 3 months to fish in the winter and to enjoy our weather. So anything that we can do to get people to move here and stay here and work here is to our betterment.
And I'm thinking that your husband might be a perfect fishing guide. What about the concept of getting together and actually working on a vision or a regional plan? It sounds to me like everyone is interested in using this opportunity as somewhat of a springboard to those types of discussions.
I agree. The more we can do those things on a regional basis, the more we can achieve throughout that, because we show the government agencies above us that we are working together to achieve a common goal.
I know when I look at that map of the loop, it really hits it home that we are a region with all of the jurisdictions around the lake, and we're connected because of the lake, and we're connected now potentially because of the trail system, and there's just all of these different opportunities that if we are marketing ourselves as an entire region with a common theme, which is based on that, all of the outdoor opportunities and the opportunities to enjoy the natural environment, that we get a lot of sort of bang for our buck. If we're out there marketing as a group, then it seems to me like just that side of it would be beneficial, that we're marketing the entire region. And, anything else that you all want to add at this point? What about land uses? Is there anything else that you would want to discuss as far as compatibility of land uses? Is that something that you see that can be dealt with from a planning standpoint as far as mitigating conflicts? Any thoughts on that topic?
I'll take that one. Well, there's plenty of land to go around. I mean, there's the 20,000 acres of the Lake Apopka North Shore area. That's a huge area. And then, in the city of Apopka, we have still plenty of room to develop inside the city and, kind of immediately adjacent around for shopping center development and for new residential development. So the plan that Winter Garden came up with, where they really focused on their downtown area and really clustered more than just shopping and dining, but a real lifestyle enhancing area. I just think there's tremendous opportunities for that, and it's just been a hop, skip, and a jump away from the wild areas of the Lake Apopka North Shore. So there's plenty of room to, in my view, to do everything. We just have to plan it right.
I agree. I mean, we don't have to go very far. We can look back at French Rucker, that some of us that went to college in the 60s are pretty much familiar with. And we're out in the working world of the 60s and 70s. French Rucker used to come out with the 5P principle, which is essentially proper planning prevents, and you can figure out where the rest of the word goes. But so the more that we can come together and do regional planning, whatever you want to put labels to it, we hopefully, in doing proper planning, we can achieve a better lifestyle for all of us and meet the wants and needs of our citizens that we supposedly represent. I would just like to tell you about an interesting thing that we saw when I made my little trip. We're driving along and we see this bald eagle pick up a fish out of the water. And as he was trying, this bald eagle, I couldn't tell you what sex it was, but anyway, it was kind of young and it was trying to get some elevation, and along comes this osprey, and it took the fish away from the bald eagle. And it was amazing just to see that bald eagle try to catch up to that osprey, and it was almost comical to see. But that, the only way you're going to see things like that is to go down there in that part of the world and just see things. It's all interesting. Thank you.
thank you. And just one thing I wanted to add to is the idea of land uses and coexisting and mitigating impacts is that there was a discussion today about agribusiness and where that fits into this. And to me, that is just such a logical fit with the ecotourism because it provides opportunities for people to visit our area and engage in things that otherwise they might not be able to do. And it also is consistent with our history in Lake County as well as in Orange County in this region, so that we're embracing our history, we're embracing the history of our natural resources that now we're going back and we're having to restore to a large degree, but we're also embracing our agricultural past. And then by being open-minded about new industries and diversifying our economy, we're not putting all our eggs in one basket so that we've got alternatives for job opportunities. So,
for the last 8 years, for the last 2 years specifically, I've served on a board called Sustainable Florida. It's based in Tallahassee. For the last 2 years, I was the chair of the board. I just rolled off now the immediate past year. But Sustainable Florida, if you've never heard of it, go online and visit www.sustainableflorida.org. It promotes the idea that organizations, cities, individuals can be good stewards of the environment and create profitable businesses and create jobs at the same time. And there is example after example after example of organizations that do a fantastic job in terms of trying to lighten their footprint on the environment and create jobs at the same time. Darden Restaurants, great example. They have one of the world's largest solar arrays on top of their corporate headquarters in South Orlando. Inside their restaurants, they have replaced all of their, what they call their back of the house lighting with complex fluorescents. It reduced their electricity usage by 30%. They're saving money, improving their bottom line, and they're lightening their footprint on the environment. Publix restaurants, or Publix supermarkets rather, does a great job with recycling food waste and turning food waste into compost in a partnership with Waste Management. There's a company out of Pompano Beach called Valley Forge Fabrics, one of the world's largest suppliers of fabrics to the hospitality industry. They sell Disney, all of their curtains and carpets and sheets, all of their products are made out of recycled plastic bottles. So again, story after story after story, it's completely possible, and I think really important for Florida's future, that we embrace this idea called sustainability. And I often tell people, sustainability ought to be regarded as an industry unto itself, figuring out how to do more with less, creating jobs, preserving the environment, and it's really important for Florida to think in that fashion.
and I appreciate your comments, and I know that a lot of folks are covering the topics of, or the idea of sustainability. And I think the key is that you distinguish between market-driven sustainability, and that's the key, as opposed to sort of a government-imposed concept of sustainability, that this is market-driven, that people and businesses, they choose to do this. This is what they choose to do. And it's a perfect brand for our region because of our wonderful natural resources. So thank you very much to our panel. And I see that we have a really important guest with us here. So if we can ask Congressman Webster to come on up to the podium.
Well, it's great to be here. Thank you, Leslie, for inviting me. You've done a fantastic job. So some of my commission friends, it's great to see you. And I love partnerships where everybody in the community gets together. It's far better than having the federal government make the decision. We are masters at cookie-cutter programs for every community. So you want a program from the federal government, just know it will be the same as Butte, Montana, and Inner City, New York. We just stamp them out one at a time. Far better for communities to get together. And this just reminds me of somewhat of a dream. I mean, when I was the Speaker of the House many years ago, we, along with Tony Jennings in the Senate, put up, I don't know, Charles, maybe you may know, was it 25 million, 50 million, 40 million to purchase? Higher? It was higher. 80? I don't know. It was a lot of money. And it was a lot of money now. It's really a lot of money then. And the whole idea was to buy up the north shore of Lake Apopka. But even at that, just doing that seemed like it's a way, way long time before we'll ever be talking about anything because it's just in bad shape. And wow, here we are. This is just awesome, and I love it. I remember working with the late Senator George Kirkpatrick, who had an idea along with myself and some others about ecotourism and making that a reality in our state, mainly up in his area, which is he had some areas that was west of Gainesville area, and he had a big interest there. When we were talking about economic development and funding the tourism, he thought some of that money should go there. Well, when I chose to chair the committee in the Senate many years ago that did those things, we ended up putting money in ecotourism, but I never believed that we would start here, or it would come to here. And I'm excited about just the fact, not only is the community coming together, but it's got a possibility of actually happening. And for me, that is a dream come true. Like when I get to Washington, they put one of those things on your head, they sort of deprogram all the things you used to remember, how good it was in the Florida legislature and the House and Senate, because they don't want you to think that way anymore. But I do remember some of the things, and this was one of them. And I am excited for this community, along with the others, not only in Orange and in Lake County, that are along the edge of that lake. And what could happen here is something that, again, was only a slight dream, more of an impossible opportunity as opposed to something that's made reality. And so I'm excited to be here today and to hear. I have staff here most of the time. I want to hear what's going on because it's not only our future and certainly a part of a district I represent, but it's also sort of a reminder of the past and how it was before and how quickly it can improve if we just get a start. And I think this, again, together with cities and county as involved in it, plus other organizations that have interest in it, public-private partnerships, it's just the way to go. And so we're going to build an opportunity to have a solution here, and I'm excited about it, and whatever I can do to help, I'll just cheer you on, because I think it's a great thing, and I'm excited for this community and what could happen in the future. It's going to be a great thing for the public, the citizens. I think they're going to love what goes on here, and I think there can be a balance, and there have to be. There are other economic things happening in this area too, and I think it's all got to be balanced out. But thanks for letting me come today. Great to see all of you.
Congressman, thank you very much for your remarks, and I'd like to thank everyone who has shared their ideas, their thoughts throughout the summit. We are now at the point where we will listen to any comments that anyone from the audience may want to share with us at this point. I'm not sure if we'll be able to answer the questions, but we'll make sure we get them documented, and we'll respond to you later. So if you would like to, there are microphones right at the end of each aisle. If you could come up to the aisle, I'll try to make sure we alternate. So the gentleman on my far right, if you'd like to speak first. Maybe you turn there. Okay. Is it Mr. Wiggins? You just may have to shout. Yes. Oh, if it doesn't work, you can just come up here.
Can you hear me?
I can.
George Wiggins. I'm president of the Tangerine Improvement Society, which over 100 years old. It's the oldest incorporated Our concern in the Tangerine area is, as expressed today, is a potential negative impact about the ecosystem on the north side of Lake Apopka. I myself and our family have been residing in Tangerine for 10 years now. It's a rural area, and we love it like it is. Tangerine is a bird sanctuary, and we have a grave concern about the extension of this runway and to create an airport that might grow to the size of a potential jet port. My questions are, we have a sizable airport, regional airport in Leesburg. Why can't the services there be adequate? There is the Orlando Apopka Airport, which has been covered today about the expansion and the potential $30 million museum and all the efforts there. Why does that not serve the aviation needs of the area? That's what we can't understand. And there are folks that have got together here, and I think they'll be speaking today as well around Tangerine and the Lake Gem area. They're all equally concerned about the expansion and the change of the character of the area that could be impacted by a future large airport. So, thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Okay. Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Rich Dunkel with the Greenways and Trails Foundation. I'm a volunteer board member. And usually when I get up in a group like this, I'm going to talk about trails, trails, and trails. However, when you look at the whole ecosystem and the whole area of Lake Apopka and all the presentations we had today with the innovative water treatment, with the recreation opportunities, with the restoration opportunities, with the transit and transportation, trails are just one part of it. And about 10 years ago, I did happen to have the pleasure of working with Jim Thomas, and they put together a Lake Apopka Basin plan. And I think it's inevitable that to go ahead with this and to do it properly, it is going to be multi-county, multi-jurisdictional, multi-agency that should get together, because this greatly affects, and I hadn't heard this term today, and usually you hear it all the time, quality of life. And when you say quality of life, it's kind of nebulous, but when you listen to the news and you see that in Beijing, they're selling soda cans of fresh air for people to breathe, you see why it's important to pay attention to projects like this. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. My name is Deborah Park. I'm the president of Lake Gem Residents Alliance, Incorporated. I want to thank everyone for having us here, and I just want to say what an excellent summit this has turned out to be. I love seeing the exchange of all of the ideas. I wanted to just talk a little bit about our organization. We are a nonprofit community organization, and we are committed to preserving our natural environment. Our community is very similar to Tangerine, as Mr. Wiggins from Tangerine was talking about. We are located a little closer to the north shore of Lake Apopka. We actually have some of our Lake Gem residents that live on 448A. One of the things we wanted to talk about is that, of course, the preservation of the national environment that we currently enjoy. We have seen the increase in different bird species. We can document what everyone is talking about, and we do not want to lose that. We don't want to lose our peace and quiet. We don't want to lose our dark skies, the national environment, the native vegetation. So, honestly, I've been very encouraged by all of the ideas that have been presented today. We absolutely support the ongoing efforts of the North Shore Restoration Area and also making that the eco-tourist destination that it is. We are very encouraged by the idea of the eco-village. And so, therefore, we support those kinds of plans that will preserve and be consistent with our national environment. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to share? Oh, I see someone trying to decide if they're coming down toward the stage or making a quick exit. I'm sorry, if you could speak into the microphone.
Yeah, they're talking about the airport before, about how much it was generating in revenues, and they said $8 billion was payroll, representing the he also said that it was in the enterprise zone, the three airports were in the enterprise zone, and therefore they were eligible for funding, funding. And I wondered how much of that money is taxpayer money going to pay for sustaining those airports, and then also how much of that money would actually go to be paying for the expansion of the runway? Because if it's our taxpayer money that's paying for the expansion of that runway, I'm concerned that we'd be basically paying to kill birds, and that would be really bad public relations for Florida. Really bad, so I'm just wondering how much money is going to be. Do you happen to know? Any idea?
I do not know that information, but I know we met out in the lobby. What is your name?
Oh, sorry, I'm Helen Morgan.
Okay, and if you can make sure you leave your email address out front, we'll make sure you get that answer. And then we'll put that as part of our summary as well. Okay, Charles?
We'd like to say one other thing, and that is that mention was made a couple of times in today's proceedings by Jim Thomas and also by Senator Hayes, the concept of establishing part or all of the North Shore as a national wildlife refuge under the jurisdiction of the Fish and Wildlife Service and the Department of the Interior. We at Audubon are very encouraged about the potential that that idea be thoroughly examined, investigated, and looked at for what benefits it could provide. I think that Senator Hayes, made a point that it's a question of timing. I don't think anyone would disagree with the idea that it is a question of timing. The one thing I wanted to put on the table with regard to the potential interaction of a U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service designation is that within the last couple of years, the Department of Interior has established a priority of examining the potential of new national wildlife refuges within close proximity to urban areas in the United States. And there is the potential, at least expressed in terms of what the Department of Interior has been saying and doing in other areas, for that focus to possibly bring some additional funding into the picture. We know that, for example, the long-term management of the restoration areas as mixed managed marshes by the Water Management District is a challenging task for the district standing alone. All we have to do is look across about 50 miles away and see the tremendous job U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has done at Merritt Island, and they're an excellent example that everybody's been using here today of the Black Point Wildlife Trail. That all is the brainchild and the management expertise of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service being carried out right here in Florida. So I don't want to let that idea subside. It's something that needs to be carefully pursued. It is not something that is going to happen overnight, either in terms of what the service would be willing to do or what should happen. But we think as a piece of the puzzle, moving all these puzzle pieces together, it's something that ought to be kept on the table and examined. Finally, it is not lost on us that agriculture is tremendously important. The agricultural heritage, as it has been excellently carried out and displayed by Long and Scott, is something that we need to integrate into this plan, and we ought to be very supportive of that. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for those thoughts. Is there anybody else before we come on to the microphone?
I just want to make a comment. First of all, my name's Skip Gerner, and I'm Vice Chair of the Harris Chain Lake Restoration Council. We were created by the Florida Legislature under statute to make recommendations to St. John's Water Management District, also the Lake County Water Authority, and the Florida Legislature on the restoration of the Harris Chain. The council has determined, well, first let me say that years ago, as Congressman Webster had indicated, a considerable amount of money was invested by the Florida taxpayer to buy these farmland. And the farmland idea that it was to help restore Lake Apopka. That was the reason that that land was acquired. At the council, we've determined and made recommendations to the Florida legislature that remains the reason that we maintain local control. I understand the value of certainly being a partner with the federal government, but it must remain, we believe, that the restoration of Lake Apopka is dependent locally and must remain under local control, and that's our recommendation.
Thank you very much for sharing this thought. Yes, ma'am.
Over here.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, he was over on the right. We won't get to you next. Yes, sir, I'm sorry.
My name is Vance Yoakum. I want to make a comment, actually agree with Skip, talking about this whole program that I've seen, I think should be under local control. The red flag for me that went up is when the gentleman from Audubon talked about having the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service involved. There's YouTube videos all over about some of the blatant approaches they have in going in and taking over control of land, throwing farmers off of it, denying leases that people in the local community are using for that. And I would really object to any involvement by the U.S. or any federal agency because they've gotten carried away with the Endangered Species Act violations. They've added the wolverine now to the list, and every time you turn around, there's some new way, some barrier. And what I would be worried about is that people who own land around these areas will then be subject to new restrictions that are going to damage the value of their land. So property rights should be very heavily considered. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. My name is Brenda Weistrack, and I'm representing the Oklaha Valley Audubon Society here in Lake County. Location is what I just told Skip and his Harris Council last Friday. The location of this North Shore is very important because it's part of a migration flyway for birds on the Atlantic coast to go to South Florida and the Everglades. We didn't ask them to stop there. They did that on their own long before we arrived. We have huge concentrations of birds moving through there, and we should take advantage of it, just like any businessman on any street corner trying to pick where to put his business. This is the location those birds fit. If we don't capitalize on it and use it for ecotourism, we are fools. We are fools. Because they are there, and it's very hard to get them to a place, but they have picked it themselves, so we need to do something to use that for our economy. My husband and I came to Florida for 20 years to visit my mother every year, and we, on our last visit before I moved here, paid a local birder $100 just to show us a red-cockaded woodpecker. So believe me, the money is out there. Those of us who are birders are willing to pay for it, and especially for the rare ones. And there are 9 listed species, 9 threatened endangered species on this property. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
John Johnson, from Peterborough chapter of the Florida Native Society. I think Apopka's mayor made a very important point that Florida is uniquely positioned to take advantage of ecotourism. Often those of us who live here don't realize what a special place Florida is, but it is in fact the third most biodiverse state in the continental U.S. Not just the species of birds, but of plants and other animals as well. And so we think it would be a real shame if airport runways or other development that was not compatible with the ecotourism would in any way impair the opportunity that we have here in both Lake and Orange County to really take advantage of what we have in the treasure. of North Apopka, especially as it gets restored. Thank you.
Great, thank you. It looks like we have time for one more question before we close. Or statement, yes, sir.
My name is Igor Emery. I just wanted to take a minute to thank the County Commission for putting this thing together today. Each of you appreciate it very much. As I look around the room today, I see a lot of veterans of the effort to get the North Shore purchased. We've started a conservation effort that has led to this today. We think we have a ways to go. We're looking forward to participating in taking care of the vital heart that is both our economic and environmental heart, which is Lake Apopka. Let's move forward together to make a better community. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. And thank you all for sharing your thoughts today, from a technical side as well as your input for those of you who live and work and play in this area. And I'd like to turn the microphone over then to Commissioner Campione and Commissioner Brummer for our closing remarks.
Thank you very much for being here. Commissioner Campione's call for us to plan together as a unit, I think, is a natural. Commissioner Campione, several months ago, a year ago, began a process of the Northwest Orange County, East Lake County elected officials getting together on a quarterly basis to discuss these kinds of ideas. We do need to work together. We do need to plan together. We need to make sure that we all contribute, that we just don't worry about the development that's going on in our adjacent communities. Second thing is, I want you all to say thank you very, very much for the tremendous effort of the Lake County Commission, especially Commission Chair Campione for today, and the Lake County staff for putting this event on, and for Mayor Delhan of Mount Dora for hosting it and letting us use this facility. I would very much appreciate it. Thank you.